Hello, my name is Jeff Feige. I am the Vice President of Field Sales Engineering here in the U.S. Today in this hopefully short how-to, I'm going to show you how to install the IGEL UMS version 5.03.100 on CentOS 6.8 64-bit. This is a perfect style installation, in which case I'm going to show you how I install CentOS 6.8 as well. That way you kind of get an idea of what the environment looks like. So I'm using Oracle VirtualBox. You can use hypervisor of your choice. I've given this particular machine 2 gigs of RAM and 20 gigs of storage. It's not a bad starting point for your VM. If you have more, of course, more is always better, right? So let's get started. So let's fire up the virtual machine, and we'll install or upgrade an existing system. This takes just a moment. All right, I'm going to skip my installation media test. I know that it's good. I've already done the MD5 sum on it. And we'll go through our initial config here. So, English for the installation process, English for the keyboard. It's just a basic storage device. And I'm going to discard my data because I don't need it. IGEL UMS server should be our host name. And I'm going to go ahead and configure the network now. You can do this later, but for me it's a little easier to do it right now. So we'll set connect automatically, available to all users. We'll set a static IP address here. Okay, we'll set our DNS server. And then we'll set our search domain. Excellent. IPv6 we'll set to ignore. Click on apply. Click on close. Click on next. I'm in Eastern time zone and I'm set to use UTC, so I don't need to make any changes there. Set our root password. Don't forget that. And I'm going to use all space and click on next. I'm going to write changes to disk. And it should take a couple seconds to complete here. Now, the IGEL UMS admin console does require a GUI, so we're going to say minimal desktop here. And we can leave everything else the same for this moment. Click on next. And this next process here takes about 10 minutes or so, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and see you back here in a few. All right, that was pretty fast, especially for you. We're going to need to reboot in order to continue on with the installation here. So I will we'll see you when it's done rebooting. All right, so it's booted back up, and we'll go through the continuing installation here. Agree to the EULA. Create our user. I'm just going to call this guy IGEL and give him a password. Don't need to do anything else here. Date and time. Going to synchronize to just NTP servers. I'll leave KDump on. Click finish, and it's going to require another reboot. And so again, I'll see you when it's done. So again, the device is rebooted, and we're sitting here waiting at a login prompt. And so I'm going to go through some steps here, and I'm going to try to keep the reboots to a minimum. So I'll explain what each one does and why we're doing it. So I'm going to add the launcher to the panel, and we'll fire up a terminal. So by default, the first thing we ought to do here is check the network and make sure that we have the right IP address. Let's ping our gateway. Excellent. So looks like we're good there. If for some reason it's not up and running, you can go up here and edit the connections and go in and make the same changes we had before. So, okay, so we checked the network. We're good there. So we're going to SU space dash, which will change us to the root user. So we need the root password, and the dash gives us the root user's environment variables. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add our IGEL user to the wheel group, and you'll see why here in a minute. So it's user mod space dash lowercase a, which means append to the current groups that are assigned, capital G, dash capital G, and then wheel and the user that we're adding. So that's great. We can say ID IGEL, and we'll see IGEL is now part of the wheel group. Great. All right, so now we're going to VISUDO. And if you're not familiar with VI, I suggest you do a little bit of that. But anyway, we'll go down here to where it says allows people in the group wheel to run all commands. So this will allow us to use sudo for the IGEL user, or for any user for that matter. And then we're also going to add allow people in the wheel group to run IGEL UMS admin console. So by default, we use PolicyKit to allow people to run the admin console, but it does not appear to be working correctly on CentOS 6.8. So this is a pretty fairly straightforward workaround. So we're going to say the wheel group. We're going to say that all users can run it as the root user. And then we're going to say no password is required for opt IGEL remote manager rm admin rmadmin.bin. So capitalization is important here. So it's /opt / all caps IGEL /remote manager with a capital R and an M, lowercase rm admin / rmadmin.bin with RMA in all caps. So we'll exit out here, and it will tell us if we made any errors. Doesn't look like we did. All right, so that's taken care of. We do not support SE Linux, so we need to disable that. And that is in this file here. Just go down and we'll change enforcing to disabled. And write that guy out. And then we need to disable IPv6. So that is in syscontrol.conf. We'll need to add a couple new things here. We can just say disable IPv6. And that is net.ipv6.conf.default.disable _IPv6. If you can't tell, I talk to myself while I do this stuff. And yes, we want to disable it. And then we will say net ipv6.conf.all.disable IP_IPv6 equals 1. Great. So we've set that. If you do not have a DNS entry for this server in your DNS server, which I do not in this environment, so we're going to go down here and we are going to put IP address of the server, and we're going to say IGEL RM server, and then we're going to put the full IGEL RM server .presales.igel.com. We can ping it, make sure, and there we go. Perfect. That is our IP address. And now we go through the yum update. This is a requirement. So let's go package kit's running. So it's trying to do there's a GUI application that runs here as well. You may run into this, you may not. It's pretty easy to kill, so we can say kill all package kit. Well, maybe not. Oh, it's done. That's why there's no more process, right? So it says there's one update available. Let's do yum update. Now we go. And this will take a couple minutes, so we'll come back after it is done. So the Yum update is done. This is good stuff, right? So now we can install the prerequisites for the IGEL UMS. So we'll say yum-y, which means yes, right? So we don't have to say yes. And we have a list of about 10 things. Nothing too terrible. So it's libzip.i686 and curses-libs.i686 bzip2-libs i6.i686 lib capital X tst.i686 lib Xinerama with a capital X, so XINERAMA.i686 lib X capital XI.i686 lib XEXT.i686 also with a capital X, lib XRender.i686 and lib gcc.i686.868.86. All right. If all is right, this will only take a couple seconds to install. And since this is in a virtualization environment, it's generally a good idea to install the virtualization tools. So for that, and especially for my environment here, I'm going to go ahead and do that so that we have a decent resolution on this guy here. So I'm going to say yum-y group install development tools, quotes around it, go. And this will take a couple minutes, so I'll pause here and we'll come back when it's done. Okie dokie. So we are back, and like I said, I'm going to try to keep it to as few reboots as possible, but at this point, now we've updated the environment, we've installed the development headers and some development tools to install the hypervisor tools, or the virtualization tools. But because the kernel version that we're currently running and the headers are different, we need a reboot at this particular point in time. So let's do a shutdown-r now. And I'll see you when it's done rebooting. All right, it's about done rebooting. Go ahead and log in. And I'm going to insert the tools here. This really only takes a second. We can actually kind of do it almost the Windows-y way at this point. Click on OK, click on Run, put in my root password, and it'll go ahead and build these modules, and we should be good to go. Alright, it's done building the modules. We'll hit return. I'll go ahead and log out. I think all that needs to happen is the X server needs to be restarted. So let's see what happens here. You have to type in the password correctly. I think I had an unlock on. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll go ahead and log in. There we go. Now we have a nice 1080p screen. Excellent. Let's go ahead and download the management server. So we just go to myigel.biz, click on the management suite, click on Linux, scroll down to 503.100.bin, save it, just put it in our downloads folder, and see you in 3 minutes. All right, so we're all done. Well, not all done, but done downloading. So let's close that guy. Let's open up a terminal here and switch to the downloads folder. We need to make this file executable. All right, and now we can say sudo /setup IGEL UMS. And if all is right in the world, we should be able to get our installation done pretty quickly. All right, so hit enter, accept the license. The default path should be just fine. We don't need to make a backup because this is a new install. And let's do a complete IGEL Universal Management Suite install. This is something, if you are a legacy customer, this will make sense, but you can skip this note. Again, file transfer stuff, this is fine. By default, leave the run levels alone. The paths are all okay. Let's use the internal embedded database. It's easy to switch to an external database if you need to, but this is the easiest way to install and get it up and running. And then we pick the database username. This is basically the database user, the DBM, for the internal database. So I'm going to use admin, and the password I'm going to use is admin, and then we have to type it again. And let's go ahead and hit space and create a shortcut in the system menu and say OK and start installation. This takes about 2 or 3 minutes, so I might pause it here in a minute. I just kind of want to let you see what the responses are, so it makes sense. All right, so this part here will take a minute or two, so I'll go ahead and pause and see you when it's done. All right, so it's done, and there are no errors here on the screen, which is really a good thing. And we'll exit, and now we're sitting at a command prompt. So what do we have here? We have System Tools, UMS Administrator, and UMS Console. Because PolicyKit is broken and we made that change to allow the user to run the RM admin bin. If you remember that far back when we used the vsudo command, there's one more thing we need to do. So let's change to the super user here, and let's edit opt IGEL remote manager RM admin sh. What we need to do is change this pk exec to sudo, and that is all. So now we should be able to run both the UMS console All right. For the server, we can put an IGEL RM server. You can also use localhost since we're on the device. The username will be the DBM, which we made admin, and so will the password. And we'll go ahead and connect. First time it'll ask us about whether or not we want to accept the certificate from the UMS. We'll go ahead and accept it. And here is our UMS console. Also, we should now be able to run the UMS Administrator console. Excellent. So, the one thing that we still need to accomplish, so if you want to access this from somewhere other than this server, we need to be able to get to the UMS ports from the outside. By default, this installation has IP tables set up. So if we say IP tables -L, we'll see that we have some input chain things, and we're rejecting traffic that doesn't match. So what we can do here is insert some new IP tables chains to allow, or you can disable the firewall entirely, that's up to you, or if you have some other method, that's fine too. I'm just going to show you how this works in this particular install. So let's say IP tables -I in the input chain, and we'll say TCP, yeah, that's right, TCP destination port I know I'm doing this wrong here. 30,001. And then we're going to jump to the accept rule. And what did I do wrong here? Oh, this isn't a T, it's a P. All right, so now we have our 30,001 coming in. That is also a UDP rule. So we'll put that as well. And then we have two more to add. We have port 9080 and port 8443. Those are only TCP ports. So now if we say IP tables dash L, we should see these. Let's do a dash N dash L so we see the ports. So there we go. We have our TCP rules and our one UDP rule. So that's a bonus. And then all we have now to concern ourselves with is saving these rules, right? So we say service IP tables save. This way, when we reboot the device next time, it'll come up and be ready for outside connections. At this point, you should have a functioning IGEL management server on your CentOS 6.8 64-bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I might want to show you. Your files, IGEL Remote Manager, GUI server, web apps, UMS file transfer. This is where the files that you want to serve up from this server go, as well as the files that you create in the console. But we'll get to that later. If you need to access this remotely via VNC, that's kind of out of the scope of this, but it's a fairly straightforward thing too. There is a document on the CentOS website about setting up VNC. I hope this was a helpful tutorial, and I'll see you around. Thank you. Have a great day.